Sounds good. All right, maybe I'll just go audio then.
Yeah, that's fine.
Sounds good.
I have my camera on the stream, but it tends to
Oh,
when I am screen sharing, um, the camera of my guest always disappears. I haven't figured out how to work around
oh
that
yeah.
yet, so it doesn't really matter for you.
I can't even see you. Wait, you have it on now?
I have it on for the stream, which means that I can't use it for Google Meet.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Okay, let's get started here. So we're just gonna go through this Verona game. Was a blowout, but I felt like there was a lot of good stuff to learn from. So I just went with this one instead of the other one that your dad sent to me.
Yeah. Nice.
So yeah, I've got a bunch of notes. I basically have a note like every few seconds. It's nice that the footage is like only the points that you're on. Um, so we probably don't have to like skip through it like we would at a normal game that I was looking at or that I would look at.
Yeah. Right.
Okay, here's my first note here. 17 seconds in. I think this is a theme. Uh, Actually, hold on. Sorry.
You're good.
I think your mark is good here. What I noticed later on is that you mark a little bit differently than you do in this clip right here. So right now you're doing a good job of pressuring a shown throw with your left hand. You're forcing forehand, but you've got like a pretty flat mark, and this is really good in this instance because there are already two people in that around space, the open space. Can you see my mouse here?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so the open space is this area in front of the thrower that they're probably wanting to attack. So it's good that you're shifting towards a flatter mark instead of going just more around and just like focusing on holding the force.
Okay.
Um, and what I noticed later in some of the clips is that it's a similar scenario where the thrower is in their flick stance. They're like ready to throw a forehand, but then you're shifting around more and letting off that space, that inside space or that space directly in front of the disc. So we'll review that in those other clips.
All right.
But I think this is a really good mark right here. And this throw does go off. That's totally fine. Doesn't gain any yards. It's a low stall, and then your teammate just comes in and sets the mark. Here is a really minor detail that could be important in some scenarios, but as soon as the thrower releases the disc, you turn your back towards the player you're defending, um, which does not get punished here, but is a punishable action. Like in
Right.
general, when you're guarding someone who's close to the disc, you want to avoid turning your back on them as much as possible because that's an opportunity for you to lose vision of them. So just a small footwork note there.
Yeah. Okay.
But in general, I would say you do a really good job, like way better than most high school players, of maintaining a view of the disc when you're playing defense. So that may have been your thought here, like your player through
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
disc, and now you're gonna find the next thrower. Um,
Yeah. I definitely like to keep an eye on the disc.
yeah,
Like.
that is definitely a good habit here. And right now, we're going to notice another thing that you do well a few times throughout this game, which is your offender cuts to the break side, and instead of chasing them to the break side, running towards the sideline, which you'll see people do at like all levels of Ultimate, you just open up your vision a little bit, you find the disc, um, and you're not worried about guarding that break side cut because you know the mark is taking away and that throw isn't going to come. Um, let's take a look at this position here. What are you thinking as you look at the offense right now? What are your thoughts about this?
I could probably just run like a strike and get open.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking about the kind of the whole team here. What I'm thinking,
Oh yeah, we seem close,
yeah,
like very
very
close.
very close. Um, and what I'm noticing here is this player who picks up the disc doesn't really look to fast break, and he also doesn't wait until the offense is set. So he's kind of like it's not fast breaking or slow breaking. It's kind of in between, and that doesn't work well because the defense he basically gives time for the defense to set up, but not time for the offense to set up. So I would say that's a learning point. Um, I'm gonna point out a lot of mistakes that I see other people making throughout the game uh, that I think everyone can learn from. So I would say whenever there's a turnover, personally, my preference tends to be like pick it up very quickly and try to take advantage if the defense is not set.
Yeah. Okay.
Unless it's close to the end zone, where I tend to wait for the offense to set up more often. But in this case, he doesn't go fast and he picks it up when the offense isn't really in a good position. There's no depth here, and it doesn't seem clear where he's looking or who's going to cut. So, in that position, if you ever pick up the disc in that position, just wait a few more seconds for the offense to get set.
Nice. Okay.
Um, I think I was curious about something you did here as well. So you're right here. The player holding up their hands, I assume, is setting the stack. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think I funneled in like in front of him.
Yeah, exactly. So I was curious about why you didn't find a deeper position in the stack here.
Yeah. I'm not sure exactly.
Yeah. All right. It's cool. Just something to think about. Um, all right. Next note is in a few seconds here. I think you just scored. Yeah. Okay, here's a great learning point. Um, this is also going to be a theme throughout the game. You end up guarding the B reset a lot. You know what I mean by B reset?
Like the second option for reset.
Exactly. Yeah. The disc is pretty close to the sideline. There's one player in between you and your offender, and you're guarding that second player. Whenever you're guarding this second player, in my opinion, this defender should never play tight on this person because they're really just not an option for the thrower.
Yeah. Okay.
So I wouldn't say that you're necessarily playing tight. Like you've got a good buffer. You know what I mean by buffer?
Yeah. Right.
You've got a good buffer here, and I think you're very prepared to guard this person if they like charge into this space and try to get the disc. But you could this is a great position, especially when the force is forehand, to look for poach blocks. Um, so in this scenario, like you already do a pretty good job of maintaining a view of the disc. Try to also, I'd probably turn my hips so my back were actually facing my offender here. And I know I said
Okay.
not to have your back facing your offender earlier, but that is when you're guarding a player who's like ready to actively start cutting.
All
Um,
right.
Whereas in this scenario, your player is farther away from the disc, and if you just turn your hips to face the thrower in the or this sideline that I'm indicating with my mouse here, if you turn your hips to face that sideline, then you can see cutters coming in, like this guy right here, and you're able to see the thrower as well where they're looking, and the thrower typically on the flat side of the field here, so not the trap side, wants to throw it into this area right here.
Okay. Which is where I would be set up.
Yeah, exactly. And you don't necessarily have to just go stand there. In fact, it's probably more effective to stand, maybe take a couple steps closer to the thrower, like right here. Um, but if that thrower thinks the window is open and you see that there's an open cutter and you see the thrower getting ready to throw that, then you can look to pounce on those and surprise the thrower a lot of the time and get a ton of blocks from that position.
Yeah. Okay. Uh, if the B reset, if I'm poaching with my back turned and they cut deep, would I just like call for a switch, or like
No,
would
I
I
don't think
chase
I don't
after?
think you need to call for a switch.
Okay.
So, like I was saying, keep your back turned, but do like keep your head on a swivel as well. So you want to be checking in with them like every second or two, just a quick scan to make sure that they're still in the same spot. And if they cut deep from this position, like you have a lot of time to react because you still have, if you're right here where I was indicating, you've still got a vertical buffer.
Yeah. Okay.
That's also the mark is flat here, right? Because they're forcing forehand, and the backhand space is
Yeah.
mostly out of bounds. So any deep throw to where they would cut is going to be honestly a really difficult throw and probably pretty floaty, and you would have a lot of time to react. So I am not too worried about that player cutting deep here. What I would be more worried about is them getting an easy reset to the middle of the field. And so when you're poaching in this position, it's really important that you also pay attention to what the A reset is doing. And if they are like, hey, this guy's poaching, I'm just going to clear and give my teammate a free reset, then when they start clearing, that's when you want to get tight.
Get tighter. Yeah.
Because the
Okay.
B is about to become the A.
Right.
Does that all make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. Nice.
Um, okay, let's see what happens here. So right here, I noticed that you kind of just inexplicably just like let the offensive player get tight to you, and then you gave up the buffer, and then they make a cut and they're open, but the thrower does not. The other player cuts them off.
Right.
So do you know anything about your thought process here? Like the offense was
Uh.
drifting deep, and then you got
Yeah.
tight.
It was like kind of a headwind. So I think our goal is to force unders like all the time. So I think that went into it a little bit, and I was like, okay, if they get like a reset back, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, I would agree. It's not a big deal, and the potential throw you might have given up, like it's fine for the defense. But let's see what the stall was here. So stall 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So at like stall 5 plus, that is when you really want to key in on any type of easy reset. Um, because if you, let's say someone cuts for a reset and you really aggressively take that away, then it's like stall 7, stall 8, the thrower is panicking, and that's where turnovers are going to come.
Right. Okay.
So in that situation, like I would say early stall, if that player makes that cut, it's less of a big deal. But in the second half of the stall count, that could be a turnover, and probably should be a turnover. So that's when I would look to key in as a defender and really focus on taking away those easy passes.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Because like late stall, the offense is just looking for something that's going to reset the stall count instead of like a yardage gaining throw, which they should be
Yeah.
looking for in the early stalls.
Right. Okay.
Um, so you said the offense is going into a headwind. Does that mean they're going?
Or no, they're going with the wind.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see what happens next here. So they throw a turnover. Okay, so this thrower picks it up, and then you make a cut, and the thrower immediately looks uh, off the line. Um, so I would say this cut here is just a bit wasted from you, and
Okay.
if
Yeah.
you think the thrower isn't going to look at you, like as that cutter, it's really important to have eye contact with your thrower.
Yeah.
And I don't see any eye contact here, which means
So just be patient, like wait a bit
yeah,
to make the
exactly.
cut.
The thrower it means the thrower probably is not going to look at you. Um, so they look for the swing, and then ideally another swing pass would go up to that front of the stack, but they mistimed their cut. Like in an ideal world, this swing goes up, and then they throw it to the front of the stack, and then
Right.
you're ready at the back of the stack to make a deep cut. Um, and then it's fine because the next person is there ready to step up and just be the next deep cutter or undercutter. But um, something I noticed from the film is that you are one of the fastest players on the team. Probably, would you say that's true?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Probably.
like you are by far the best player that I've watched on film at getting open from downfield. So it's more advantageous for you to be making those downfield cuts and to be taking up a little more space than for someone else.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, and cutting early, I would say, is a theme for you throughout this footage. So that's just something to take note of, and we'll see some more examples of that.
All right. Yeah. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we'll let this play out a few more seconds. And boom. What do you think about the timing of this cut here?
Uh, it's a little like crowded, but
Yeah,
I was kind of hoping like the previous cutter is clearing like.
yeah.
So I was
Um,
hoping by the time I got there, it would be. I mean, yeah, I guess that kind of sets up for a poach if they want to just chill in that lane. But
yeah, exactly. So this is a pattern that I saw a lot. Uh, the offensive player before you would still be in the lane. They would be like starting to make their clear, and then you'd be taking that space. Um, And like you just said, if that defender just hangs out in the lane for one more second, then they either get a block or the thrower just can't throw it to you.
right,
Um, so if you look at the timing here when you're cutting under, like
yeah,
this
very
guy is
soon.
still here, this guy hasn't even started clearing yet, and you're open, you've got the separation, but there's no lane to throw it into because of these two players in front of the disc. Um, so I would just say wait like 2 more seconds here, probably.
Okay, yeah,
And then if you wait, the thrower might look at the reset, um, or they might keep looking downfield. If they look at the reset and swing it, then you can make a cut on the other side of the field. And if they keep looking downfield, then you actually have an opportunity to get open.
yeah, okay, makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great continuation cut here. I noticed that this team really often completely messes up their defensive assignments.
Yeah,
And you do a good job of. There were like 3 times I think I saw when you just were not being guarded, and whenever that happens, if no one is guarding you or you're being poached, but most of the time it was just not being guarded, then this is exactly what you want to do. Just make a cut, gain some yards, and put yourself in a good position to throw outfield. Let's take a look at this cutter right here, this potential continuation cutter, and tell me what you think about the cut that they make, like how they set
okay.
up their continuation cut.
Okay. I don't think they commit hard enough. I mean, they kind of wait. play it
Yeah,
through?
yeah. I'll keep playing it here.
Okay. I mean, yeah. As soon as I catch it, they kind of just start clearing
Yeah.
and
Why?
don't even make an attempt.
Yeah. How do you think they could have set up their cut better? Like a.
Maybe waited a second to come under or
Mhm.
taken like a wider window to the sideline.
Yeah. Um, so yeah, I think the cut here from that guy is too early again. Also, something he does is he really eats up his horizontal space very early.
Yeah,
Um,
right.
and that's a mistake I see constantly at like every level of play except the very top level, and that's something that often differentiates the top teams from lower teams. Like, I don't know if you watched this stream I did with Dina a while ago, but like I we were talking about Fury's offense, and something they do really well is they just hold space on the sides of the field, and they don't start their cuts too early or drift into the middle. And so when it's time for them to actually cut, they have a lot of space to work with. Um,
Nice. Yeah.
and so the lesson here is don't just like drift towards the sideline. You see, this cutter isn't even making like a hard cut to get open at the sideline. They're just kind of jogging right now, right? And they never put themselves in a position where they can run 100% and get open.
Right. Okay. Like they
So,
just have too little space.
yeah, exactly. So, instead of doing that, let's see what I think they should do. Okay, so I think they should stop moving right now. I understand that it's probably tempting for them to run into this space early because uh, the defender is not taking it away. But I think they should just stop, wait for you to catch it, and then when you do catch it, they have options. They can either make a really hard vertical deep cut, and you have a lot of space to throw it
Yeah.
into, right? If they just hold and maintain that horizontal space in front of them, they can start making a deep cut and then slash under and get that under, or they can they could start slashing under and then go deep, which would have been an option if they still had that horizontal space to work with. So like maintaining both horizontal and vertical space makes your cuts so much harder to guard because your defender has to defend more planes, right?
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. That's
Cool.
good. I'm just gonna write this down.
Yeah, for sure. And this video is also going to be saved, and I'll send you the link. So,
Perfect.
um, okay. Next note here. So this mark, actually, this team that you're playing against does a pretty good job of taking away continuation throws. Something that you should be doing against, well, I mean, any offense really, if you want to stop continuations, is like, let's say someone catches an under, like you did right here. Uh, for the first like second of the stall count, it's a great idea to go flatter on the mark to take away that next immediate under. So in this
Yeah.
situation, like you might have had a backhand hook to, I think this is number 24 or 14 right here, but the mark takes it away. Um, but the risk of doing that as a mark is they give up this potentially even worse hook for the defense, which
Mm.
would have been like a big forehand into this space. And this probably happens 3 times in this game that you catch an under, and the mark stops the backhand down the line, but then they leave themselves open to the break side hook. Did you think about throwing that at all?
The deep.
Yeah, like a forehand into this space over here.
I no, not really. But that's interesting.
Yeah. So whenever you see the mark kind of cheating to the open side, um, your mentality should be like, okay, how do I immediately punish this as a thrower? Like they're trying to take
All right.
the open side continue. That means that the defenders are going to be on the wrong side of their player. Like what's nice about break side hucks are that they are typically really hard for defenders to contest because notice this defender is on the backhand side. So if you're able to throw it out here to this space, it doesn't even have to be a very good throw. You have a lot of margin for error because the defender is on the wrong side and they're going to have a hard time catching up.
Yeah. Nice. Okay.
Um,
Definitely.
but that's fine. You throw another under, which is good. Actually, I had one thing to say here. Yeah, so right here, what do you think about your movement after you throw this disc?
Uh,
Ignoring what actually happens with the disc, what do you think about what you do?
I don't know. Should I?
I
It
think,
seems like a little slow, but
yeah, exactly. That is my main point that I want to make here.
like a
What
little
the
lazy.
actual thing you're doing is good. You're clearing, your cutter, so you're getting downfield, you're getting into the stack. But yeah, it is slow and a bit lazy. Um, and at higher levels of ultimate, um, the offense typically wants to spend very little time with the disc on the sideline. What you'll see is someone catches an under, they give 1 or 2 seconds to look at it continue downfield, and then they want to swing the disc.
Okay.
So, how if the thrower who got the disc, 16 here, wanted to do that in this scenario, it would be very difficult for them to throw a quick swing off the line back to the middle of the field because you and your defender are still occupying that area.
Right. Should I have cleared in front of the reset?
In front, I think as long as you make this clear cut hard, um, I think you have options here. If you run really hard, you can clear wide around this side. But yeah, it's probably easiest if you just take this line and find like the second spot in the stack.
Okay. Yeah.
Or if you feel comfortable operating in the handler space, you can
Just fill
tell
in. Yeah.
everyone else to push downfield. That honestly, that's ideal because
Right.
then you don't have to clear as hard. And I mean, everyone else is already in front of you, so it's better for them to push into the vert stack. So it's up to you to communicate that whether or not you want to clear to the stack and continue cutting, or tell everyone else to create the stack in front of you, and then you can stay as a handler.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, let's keep playing. Turnover. All right. Let's take a look at your positioning here. Um, I think you're in good position. Your hips are open. You can see the disc and your player. Um, we won't talk about what the offense is doing here because they're
Yeah.
not in a great
In
position.
one half.
Yeah, main point I want to make here is just like think about there are like levels to how much you want to help your teammates in this scenario. And like honestly, right now you don't need to be doing much because the offense is making things really hard for themselves anyway. But if you're guarding this player that's pretty far away from the disc, and this thrower is like on the majority of high school teams that you play against, most people are going to be pretty bad at hucking, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So even if your player goes deep, um, they are going downwind, so that's a factor to take into account. But if you have a read on the player with the disc that they are just not going to throw a huck, and this is relevant even past the high school level because even at club nationals, a lot of people are just not comfortable hucking the disc. Um, if you have a read that they're not going to throw that huck, then you can get really aggressive with the help that you offer your teammates and really constrict the area that the offense has to work with. Um, so I think right now how you're playing is fine. Like if a deep shot were to go up, you'd totally have a play on it. But in a world where the offense was spaced out better, and even if your player was also closer to the other sideline and they were just holding on the rail, like you could play so far off them.
Right. Okay.
Like if this offensive player were all the way on this sideline, they were set up in normal horizontal stack, you could play in the middle of the field probably.
Okay.
And I think it seems like in a lot of these clips, like when you're guarding the B reset or when you're guarding, a player that's far away from the disc, you have good defensive positioning from an individual standpoint. Um, like I feel confident that your player is not going to touch the disc. But in those situations, you could be doing more by offering more help to your teammates.
Okay. Yeah.
Um,
That's interesting.
although in this situation, I think what you're doing is fine. Let's roll it here. Not great offense.
Yeah, that was a theme.
Yeah, it's okay. That's just high school ultimate. All right. Let's talk about this here. So it looks like you're gesturing for the other player, the back of the stack probably, to make that continuation cut. Is that right?
Yeah, I was talking to him before because we have like an end zone play. I'm pretty standard, and it's like if it gets swung, the back of the stack
Okay.
cuts.
Um, first of all, I like that I see you talking a lot on offense. Well, I don't hear you talking, but I see you gesturing a lot, and it looks like you're talking to your teammates a lot on both offense and defense. And that's a really underrated skill that you should totally continue to look to develop and do as much as possible. Um, like especially in those situations that I just talked about where you're guarding someone who's not a threat. Like if you're poaching deep, um, just letting your teammates know that you're there and they can play more aggressively under because of that. That's going to be huge
Yeah. Okay.
advantage for the defense. So continue to talk and communicate with your teammates. In this scenario, the general rule for who should make this continue cut in a vert stack is if the disc swings off the sideline, it depends on how far the swing goes to determine whether or not the front of the stack or the back of the stack should make the continuation cut. And the rule of thumb
Okay.
that a lot of top teams use is if the disc clears, if it's a farther swing that clears the plane of the stack, then the back of the stack should make the cut. And if it's a swing that doesn't clear the plane of the stack, then the front of the stack should make the cut.
Right. Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like your team has their own version of this. So if you talked about it with that teammate beforehand, I don't blame you for telling him to make the cut. And I think if he did make the cut, then he would be open. But generally, in this situation, what most teams would do is because this swing did not go far enough, you would make this continuation cut, catch a disc right here, and then the back of the stack would go.
Okay. Yeah.
But what ends up happening is one of those situations where you identify no one is guarding you, and then you go score a goal on the open side, which is also great. Oh, is there? What time do you need to go? Because I've got a lot of notes here. Like we can go for
There,
a long
there's,
time.
there's no necessary time. I
Okay,
don't think.
great. Okay, so you come down on
Oh,
the pull, you set the mark, your guy throws it. What do you think about this defense here?
uh, he's completely open on the wrong side.
Yeah, what's with that?
I don't know. I mean, he threw open side, and then I was kind of like poached by one of his teammates. So, or picked, not poached.
Yeah, you were picked a little bit right here,
But
but
I should have just.
I would still say you've got time to catch up, and you know right here, I think you should be hustling
Yeah.
to get
Okay.
on this open side here.
Right.
A lot of teams, um, I played in Colombia last year at a tournament, and we played a bunch of Colombian teams, and the strategy for like a big strategy that they relied on was just completing short passes in this area in front of the disc, and
Hmm.
um, they just like continued to do that over and over throughout the game. And this is such an easy throw, and it resets the stall count. So whenever we would get into a high pressure situation, someone would just make this cut in front of the disc and catch a pass. And this is not a super high stall count. It's probably like stall 3 or 4. Probably stall 4, maybe 5 even. Um, but the offense is gaining yards here, even though it's not a lot of yards. This is just something that you should be taking away because there's not really any reason to not take it away,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Um, and then what happens is because they throw one yardage gain pass, then your teammate is out of position and they throw another. Okay, let's see where are we at next. Okay, you get the disc, and this is just a great cut that you make. What I like about this, a few things. So one, the defense is just giving you the under, right? So you're like, okay, I have
Yeah.
a ton of space to work with. I'm just gonna take this under. But you do something that's really smart, and that's you just take a few steps deep, and the defender continues to back up. I don't know if this was like an active thought process for you, but um, it's like you might as well push a little deeper and see what they do. If they keep backing up, then you get even more yards on this under. And if they get tight, you could probably run right past them. Um, so I like how you set that up. And here
Yeah.
is another example of the thing I was talking about earlier. Do you notice what happens here?
They go flat.
Yep, they go flat to take away the immediate continue, but again, they leave the break side hook open. So,
Right. Oh, that's so powerful.
yeah,
Wow.
if this were a throw that you developed, um, you know, every time you caught this under, whenever the mark would do this, like, you could just throw this and then probably land it right outside the end zone and score a goal in the next pass. So in this scenario, I would say usually when you catch this disc on the sideline, like I was saying earlier, a lot of elite teams will look downfield for like 2 seconds max and then look to reset it. I think in this scenario, you look longer, you wait until about stall 6 to look off the line, but sometimes I will do that as well if I see a cut developing that I think is going to get open.
Yeah. Right. I
And
thought he had a shot maybe, but
yeah, it's clear that you see this guy and he does have a shot at getting open. So I think looking downfield here for longer is fine. And you could have maybe thrown this. It's a bit risky though. This is a great reset that you throw here. This is just like, I love how you fully turn your body, right? You go from looking upfield with your body turned upfield to turning your body to look at the reset, and that indicates that you're ready to throw it to them. And then you just really confidently step out and hit this around flick, which you do a few times throughout this game, and that is, it's a really powerful tool. even though it doesn't necessarily look like a lot or like a really difficult throw. Just being able to throw this off the sideline, both the forehand and the backhand side, is really important. So that's good.
Yeah. Thank you.
Um, oh yeah, let's talk about this here. So afterwards, the swing does not go up. Disc is still in the middle of the field. Let's talk about what you do here. Um, when you're watching this now, what do you think you should do in this scenario? No
Uh,
brainer.
maybe just clear to the stack.
Okay. What I'm seeing here, your defender's lagging.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
You've got a lot of space, like right here. What I'm also seeing, this mark is not applying a lot of pressure. So let's see what you do. You stop, you get an open side throw. You reset the stall count, you gain a few yards. Nothing wrong with this. But what I see is that you could be getting a pass into this area right here.
Right.
Um, if this is a competent thrower, I don't know if that's the case. If this is a thrower that is really uncomfortable with throwing like slight break mark passes, then it makes sense that you get it on the open side. But if you do catch a pass in this area right here, this could be an IO backhand or an around forehand. Um, then look at this guy.
Yeah.
If your if your thrower is able to break the mark, and just advance the disc to the break side, then those continues are so lucrative for your team. And then once again, you've got a break side huck look, and whenever you can throw a break side huck look, it's really good for the offense because it's so hard for the defense to defend.
Right.
Um, but you catch a disc over here, gain some yards, it's fine. And do you notice anything here?
Also slow clear.
Yep. Same thing we talked about earlier. Just need to clear faster. But in this case, well, the offense does throw a turnover. Not really your fault because you're out of the way at that point. But just good to keep in mind that you could be clearing harder there. Although, at the high school level, teams tend to hold the disc for way too long on the sideline, um, which means that you're probably never going to get punished for that lazy clear because people won't be looking off the sideline earlier. But I assume that
Just not a great habit.
exactly. And whenever you play club ultimate, uh, good club teams want to move the disc quickly. All right, let's see what's next here. Oh yeah, so you do something really good here on defense. There's turnover, and you are initially matched up on this player, right? But then you have good awareness. You see that this guy, no one's guarding him. So you switch on to him, and then I think this switch probably prevented a goal because if you hadn't switched on to him, no one else probably would have taken him, and then he would have been wide open deep. So this is one of those scenarios where you're demonstrating good awareness, and as general concept, whenever the offense or whenever your team turns it over, and the other team is fast breaking, it's important that the players who are cutting deep are the ones who are picked up first.
Yeah.
Um, so that was good. All right, let's see what happens here. You force a turn. Okay, what do you think about this? What do you think about the thrower here? The thrower and this cut that's made.
I honestly like it
Yeah, I love it.
because the person like if we reset, it's not gonna get anything like major because the defenders are all on that side anyways.
Yep.
So it's pretty open. and
Exactly.
I would hit it honestly.
It's wide open. It's wide open, and the thrower one looks off the IO backhand, which is open right here. He fakes that, and then the mark shifts over, and then he looks off the forehand, which is even more open. And again, if the thrower throws this to the break side, look at you as the continue cutter. Your defender's on the wrong side. You're going to make a deep cut. You're going to be wide open, and you're going to gain a lot of yards. But the thrower looks that off. So I just wanted to highlight that as, it's really important to be able to break the mark as a thrower. And that's not even a very challenging break mark throw.
Right.
It's just like there are two opportunities with the IO and then with the around. And that would put your offense in such an advantageous position if you're able to just even throw this first under. Or not you, the thrower. Okay, let's see here.
I kind of double cut there.
Yeah, so there were two cuts. I think what you did was fine. Like you made your cut, you saw that someone else was cutting, and so you just stopped your cut and cleared back into the stack. I think that's pretty good. Okay, what do you think about your action, your motion here?
I mean, there's no space to hit that, really. There's
deep,
also two cutters in the lane already.
yeah, exactly. So this deep cut, um, if you're playing with Jimmy Mickle, good cut to make because he is a full field, full field hucks on both sides. But, you're really deep from the thrower, and it is not a viable deep cut. So, as a result, okay, so you make the deep cut too early, right? Because it's not viable, and then as a result, you turn under early. And then look at when the thrower is ready to throw it. I'm going to pause when the thrower is actually ready to throw it. Okay, now.
Yeah.
And now you're starting to clear.
Right.
But if you just hold for like 2 seconds on that deep cut, then this under gets hit. And let's imagine you're right here, making a deep cut here, which is now a viable option if you wait. And then if your defender takes it away, then you're getting a bigger under, and the thrower is ready to hit it. So that would be another example of cutting too early. But let's see what happens right here. What do you think about this move that you make?
I should have gone deep to get spacing, at least. I think. I mean, I run like very close to another.
That's a good observation. A deep cut was definitely, I would say, viable here. But I was actually going to say that I like what you do here too, because the stall is rising. Let's see what stall it would have been. Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It seemed like you picked up on the fact that no one else was cutting to get the disc. There's zero other cuts happening. And so I actually liked the initiative that you showed here. And you were like, okay, I'm just going to go get the disc. I'm going to beat my matchup, gain some yards, and you're wide open and the thrower looks off. But yeah, I would say that's an example of like a better timed cut because you're making reads on what everyone else is doing around you, waiting for the right time, and then blasting and getting open. Alright, let's play this out. Very few completed hucks this game.
Yeah.
Alright, do you remember the very first clip we looked at with your mark?
Where I was more flat.
Yeah, so here is a situation where the thrower is showing the forehand. If you look at their right foot, they're pivoted to the forehand. And so I would like to see you pressure this a little more. And the throw that goes up is not something you could have done anything about because it's to the open side. But I would love to see you get a little bit lower on the mark. It seems like you're pretty upright here,
Yeah.
and just shift left a little bit and pressure. Not the open side throws over here, but at least these throws in front of the disc and potentially this IO as well, right? Like if someone were to cut into this IO space, if this guy slashed instead of cutting under, it looks like you're not prepared to take that away with your position.
Right.
Um, so yeah, lesson there is stop the shown throw, and then as you're stopping the shown throw, you can anticipate what the thrower wants to do next, and then react to that when they show you another throw. Let's keep playing this. And do you see what happens here?
Flat again.
Yep.
And it's open. The deep flick.
Yeah, exactly. Flat mark. And this huck is probably the easiest one that we've seen because this receiver is not super deep. And just mostly this defender is like really far away from them on the open side, right? So yeah, if you catch a disc, throw that pump fake on the backhand, like you do, you can see that mark react to it. They know they need to take that backhand away, and then you should just be ready to punish with that flick hook. But you do. Wait, what happened? Did that guy
I think it was out.
it? Oh, it was out? Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Alright, let's fast forward a bit here. Oh, okay, here we go.
Oh yeah.
So this is great because you pump fake, and then the mark shifts over, and then you're ready to punish with the around. So I love this look here.
Yeah, he gets fingers on it. So
Yeah. What do you think you could have done differently to make it more viable?
waited a second to make my backhand fake.
Yes, exactly.
Or like done a shimmy or something.
Yeah, I think when you actually made your fake, you were not ready to actually throw it. Or the cutter was not ready to receive it, right? Like you're about to pump fake here, and this throw, this throw might have been viable, like into this space here, but when you make this fake, it's just early and it gives time for your mark to recover. Notice how there's like a beat between the fake here, and then you come back, and then you throw. But if you just hold off for like half a second, and then you make that fake when the cutter is ready to cut the other way, then that around is going to be more open. You can throw it immediately and do a better job punching the mark. So a good thing to think about there is a pump fake is like how throwers communicate with cutters without words, right? A pump fake generally means you're not open, and I want you to change direction. So
right.
In this case, you communicate to your cutter that you want them to change direction, but they change at this point. When you make the pump fake, if they change direction immediately, then this around to this space would not really be open, right?
Yeah.
So just wait half a beat, get the timing right, and then when they change direction, hit that around space, then you can throw it to them for a goal. All right, let's keep going a bit here. Another situation where you're not being guarded and you gain a lot of yards. That's great. And then you've got 2-on-1 here, so I like that you threw it and then immediately looked to get it back. A defender did come flying in and picked you up. Good pump fake by that guy, and yeah, that's all Good stuff. Whenever you're not being guarded, always good to try to gain yards. All right, let's see what happens here. I think this is a fine pass to give up. Don't really need to pressure that. Early in the stall count, right? Not a high pressure situation for the defense yet, or for the offense. Okay, so throughout this possession, in particular, this right here. So as you're jogging down the field, here you do a good job checking in with the disc. You're looking back and forth, and then right about here, you just really zone in on your guy. And it took, I don't know, probably about 4 seconds, 4 or 5 seconds without looking at the disc. And I was just curious if there was anything that made you do that.
Yeah, I mean, they're getting closer to the end zone, and I was like, the 0-2 strike to that front cone is like super powerful. So I wanted to see if he was gonna make a play, like, and try and
Okay,
cut.
I got you. So you were worried about this long upline cut?
But yeah, looking at it now, I realized that there's like 3 people in that space already.
Yeah, exactly. And, if you had continued to keep your head on a swivel, which you were doing really well earlier, um, then you would have seen that space wasn't open for your offender to attack. And then, again, this scenario where you're guarding the B reset, he's far away from the disc, not really an option, and you can play a lot more middle. You can just squeeze the space that the offense has to work with into a smaller area. So yeah, whenever you're guarding that B reset, your mentality should be to poach.
Okay.
As long as you are not totally losing track of them, because that player still is your responsibility. But as long as they're not doing anything, you might as well help out your teammates. And look what happens here. They get this nice IO throw off the line, and let's look at where you are, or where your offender is right here. So if you're farther middle, if you're right here, not really too worried about your offender, who's not a threat right now, you can totally get a block on this throw. But they get it off the sideline, and then they throw a turnover, so maybe you're playing for the long game there. All right, let's see what happens here. Here I was confused by the action of, wait, no. Oh, yeah, I remember what I was going to say. So, right here, in this spot, do you know why you went deep?
No, not really.
My thought is right here, you have an open under, and consistently throughout the game, I see you generating yards for your team by making kind of the same move. Like you take a hard step deep, and then your defender commits, and then you get an under, which is great for your team. And you go deep here. I think there's definitely some separation, but I just haven't seen anyone on your team able to throw this. So I think that if you continue this undercut, look at how the defender's hips are turned here.
He's like turned away from me.
Yeah, completely. Exactly. So you can make a read on if you're going to get open under based on what the defender is doing. And right here, the defender has their hips turned, their back turned to the under space, which means it's going to be really hard for them to take this huge drop step and stay with you. So if you notice where your defender's hips are turned, that's going to give you a clue on where you can easily get the disc. And in this case, if you just run straight under to this space over here, then I think you're going to be wide open. That was a nice break. let's see what happens here. And boom, what do you think about this cut?
Same thing we've talked about.
Yeah, same thing.
Like
So,
this cutter's in the space already. I should
yeah,
just wait.
the cutter's in the space. Yeah, you just wait, and then you'll be more of an option. However, you still get the disc, but you don't gain as many yards as you could have if you had waited. Um, and now the disc is on the sideline. Let's see what happens here. All right, that's another example of you throwing a great reset. You give your cutters time to get open downfield, and then you turn and square up to your reset. Smart of your reset also to set up a little bit positive so that when you do throw this around, you're not losing many yards. And then there's a continuation. This is great. Let's take a look at this. Here's a learning point. You're not involved, but we can still learn from this turnover. What do you think about this cut from the front of the stack?
It's very horizontal and gives
Yes.
time for the defender to catch up.
Great observation. Exactly what I was going to say. It's very horizontal, which means that for the offense to lead them out to space, that disc is going to be like close to out of bounds. And because it's horizontal, the defender can take a different angle and just catch up and get an easy D. So what I'd rather see here from the front of the stack is more of a diagonal cut, and it won't gain as many yards, but it won't be a turnover. And then they can look downfield.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens here. So there's turnover. You started to make a deep cut, but you see the turn, and then immediately you're communicating who's guarding whom. And
Yeah.
like I said earlier, super important skill and something not a lot of high school players do well. So I like that that's your mentality. Turnover, got to play defense, got to figure out matchups. Huge pet peeve of mine when there's a turnover and the offense fast breaks and they're able to punish bad defense really quickly. This is super interesting formation by the offensive team.
Yeah, I think their offense is like wacky. I don't know.
Yeah, this is the first time that I saw them set up like this. So I don't know, maybe it's a set play. Kind of a cool set play actually. Definitely unique. Anyway, you're guarding the B reset. So what do you think I'm going to say that you should do?
Help out my team go towards the middle more
Yeah, exactly.
or deep, I guess in this case.
Yeah, you could even go deep. 23 could be playing more like right here. I would say these players should be looking to, like 23 especially, could be double teaming this A reset. Because there's nothing his offender is going to do to punish it. In your situation, like playing deep, I would probably not play deep here, but you could come over here and defend this IO space. And that would allow your downfield defenders to more aggressively take away the open side and not be as worried about the IO throw back to the middle. And then, if you're playing like over here, I think you still have a ton of time to react if this guy tries to punish you by attacking deep. And if he attacks up line, then that's great for you because you're already in that space.
Right, yeah.
There is a turnover. Let's see what happens here. This is a sick move. I feel like this is your bread and butter as a player. Like you're just great at making this move and generating space, and the thrower should have hit this because you're wide open. Let's see what happens next. Oh yeah, so remember when I talked about who should make this continue cut?
Yeah.
So the disc here actually does cross the front of the stack.
Right.
So you make the continue cut. You do gain a few yards, which is good, and you have an opportunity to throw a continue. But let's look at the other player who starts to make the continue cut. Look at how many yards they would have gained. They
Yeah.
probably would have
Okay.
caught it out here, and then look at this next cutter. Probably would have been a wide open break side huck again. So when you're in this position around the front of the stack and you don't know if someone is making it to continue behind you, just a really good idea to check your shoulder first before you make this cut and see if someone else is going. Because if the deeper player can make the continue, like they can in this case, then they probably should so they can gain more yards. Let's see what happens. So you catch this pass. Could throw it around. The Mark does a pretty good job sealing it. Don't think there's anything to say here for a while. There's turnover. Yeah. All right, they tap the disc in. Look at where you're defending over here. And yeah, another scenario where you're guarding the speed reset. They've got their weird formation here, and you can just be way closer to the middle of the field. Like, just don't worry about him. As long as he's not cutting deep, you literally don't have to guard him at all. Because the worst that could happen is, what, like a 40-yard swing to the
Right.
trap side? If they throw that, you're really happy about that. So you just pinch middle, somewhere around here. Or these cutters are so shallow that yeah, in this situation you could be offering a little bit of deep help. But just as long as you're not playing tight and you're playing somewhere in the middle of the field, that's going to be more beneficial for your defense. And let's see what happens here. So notice your player is starting to make a move, but they're still not really, they're not the A, right? There's still a pair in between them and the disc. And look at this throw that goes up. So if you're looking for that poach, this is a great block opportunity. If you're able to see the thrower and this player that's cutting under, you can totally get a block there.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Like just to emphasize, especially on the flat side of the fields, where the thrower is going to be looking to hit unders in the middle of the field. If you're coming in from the far side, they're often not going to see that coming, and it's going to be a lot of free blocks. And all you have to do is look for it.
I guess yeah. I would just be worried that my person would make a reset to like the middle.
Yeah, and that is it's difficult to multitask because I am saying like you need to be aware of what the A is doing, and if they start clearing, then you need to get tight to your person. But it's just a good thing to practice. Practicing your awareness is going to pay off in the long run. All right, 9:26. Can fast forward a little bit. Okay, I am very confused by what happens here.
Not exactly sure either.
Okay, so I have no idea what's going on. So the thrower walks this to the line, right? This back of the stack makes a cut that will never be hit, and then you make a deep cut before the thrower taps in as they're still walking, and then when the thrower taps in, you're super deep, and this can actually work out for you because you're giving yourself a lot of space under to attack. But
Yeah.
then instead of attacking the under, you just jog back to the stack, and then the thrower doesn't hit the swing.
Right. Yeah. I was kind of hoping they would swing it right away, and then I could
Uh-huh.
have space on the break side to counter, but
Yeah.
they didn't.
Well, it would be on the open side.
Or the open side. Whoops.
Yeah, I get what you're saying if they do swing it right away. Um, this would be a good situation to just communicate and like um, just point at where you want them to throw it.
Yeah. Okay.
Because it looks like the thrower just did not pick up on that, and then when they do look at the reset, this defender is ready to guard it. But they get a nice throw off here. And then let's look at the angle of this cut, this continuation cut that we see. So it's wide open. Why do you think the thrower doesn't hit it?
Uh, there's defenders on their right side, and it the cutter's like running away from them, and it towards the sideline. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah,
I think they could have hit it, but
I
in my
totally
personal
think.
opinion, it would be the defenders on the right of the thrower.
Mhm. I think they totally could have hit it. There's no mark. Downfield defender is not tight. My guess is that they did not hit it because, like you said, the cutter's running towards the sideline. And so that made the thrower uncomfortable with throwing a pass out to space because it's in this constricted area. So this is another example of a cutter eating up his horizontal space too early. When he
Right.
could have just made a strong vertical deep cut, would have been wide open, super easy throw. Even if this player is not a hucker, if they are capable of throwing any 40-yard throw into this area, there's no way that defender is catching up. So yeah, don't eat up your horizontal space too early. And you can tell your teammates to do the same.
I will.
Um, yeah, so
Yeah.
this right here, were you going to say something?
I was. Yeah. No. Never mind.
Yeah, so right here, you make, I think this is a good deep move. You got some steps. Your thrower could look at it. I think you just need to come under sooner.
Yeah. I was kind of waiting for the like
The pump
the
fake.
pump under, and I
Yeah,
didn't see it, but
yeah, that makes sense. Um, but it looks like your thrower is also not ready to throw it deep. And like we've seen, you're really good at just winning open side unders. So you can leverage that strength here in this scenario by just chopping down and coming under, and you do, but it's a little bit late. And then the thrower looks at the next option.
right. High stall.
Although, great throw,
Yeah.
that was dropped.
Oh.
Oh, I missed what just happened there. Oh, nice little hand block. Oh, catch. Cool. Nice. All right, let's look at your mark here. Okay, so the disc goes to the sideline. You take away that initial throw back to the immediate up line, which is good, and then the player looks off the sideline, so you hustle to take away that around, which is good, and then the thrower pivots back to their inside, and then you're still in that around space. So I'd say this is like a pretty smart progression by the thrower here. They look around quickly, and then when they see that you've taken away the around, they find an open option downfield. And I think as a mark, I don't think this is terrible from you, but it's just another opportunity for you to take away the shown throw. And as a mark, you do want to aggressively take away that around when the disc is on the trap sideline. But
Right. Yeah.
if you see the offense look back upfield, that would be a good opportunity for you to reel in a little bit tighter and apply some pressure to this IO. Because right here with your mark, it's not really a break side pass. But if you're a little bit tighter and just applying a little pressure, you can take away that throw or maybe make it a bad throw and let your teammate get a block on it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. All right, I'm gonna fast forward a bit. Okay, let's see. You're right here. You're playing great defense to start out this possession. Got a little bit of buffer to the open side, playing front pocket under your person, and then your player just runs under and catches the disc. Is this because you are forcing under?
Yeah, partly I think, because I'm like, okay, they can get the under.
Yeah. Um, I just want to point out you're not forcing under here.
Yeah, I don't know what I was doing there.
Although I think this is good defense right here. Right? They haven't. Has the other team completed a huck all game?
Uh,
I'm not sure if they
I
have.
I'm doubtful.
Um, when that is the case, when you're playing against a team that is not very good at hucking, then I think what you're doing here is great, taking away the easy option and trying to make them hit a harder option. Uh, but then your guy cuts under and catches an easy pass. And this is an example of, let's see what the stall would be here. Stalling 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's about stall 5. It's not a super late stall, but if you hustle and get in a position and take this pass away, then it's stall 6, and I would consider that to be a high stall situation. And this team is able to leverage this pass into gaining more yards because after this
Yeah,
player
right.
throws it to your player, right, they go up line, and then your teammate has to protect the up line, and then you don't steal this around. So then the around goes off, and then they're able to throw another pass, and then they do turn it over, but that's a bit lucky from your team.
Yeah, they definitely had it going.
Yeah, so if you're able to just stop that first pass, just an open side reset right near the disc, then you create a higher pressure situation and a late stall situation. So, yeah, I would say kind of the defensive theme there for you is recognizing when it's okay to give up those passes that don't really gain anything from the offense, and recognizing when you should shut those down. And generally, it's dependent on stall count.
Yeah, okay.
All right, let's see what happens here. Okay, what do you think of this cut you make here?
I don't know. I think it's fine.
What are you hoping? Are you hoping to get this little IO pass?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that you can gain a lot more. I would say that the cut is coming from too shallow and it's too early. And it looks like you're starting to make your move, and I don't know, the thrower probably should be ready to throw this. And if I were picking up this disc, I would throw this IO, but your throwers have demonstrated that they're pretty uncomfortable throwing into these break side windows. And so what I would rather see from you here is just push a little deeper, and look, if you set up in this space over here, that gives you more horizontal space to work with. Whereas right here, even though I think you're open and the thrower should have thrown it, they don't have a lot of time to react because you don't have a lot of horizontal space that you're cutting with.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say in this opportunity, just take that opportunity to set up deeper and get a bigger under, because that's what you've shown that you're really good at. Okay, let's fast forward a bit here. Okay, cool. What do you think about this cut that you make right here?
Tight window, very tight window.
But I would say, I think this is open. I think that your cuts, this is getting better to good timing. Although notice how as you're cutting under, like when you start to cut under, there is still a pair of players in the lane. It works
Yeah.
out because this defender chases the offender, but I would say
Or they could just
wait,
wait
yeah,
and
exactly.
poach.
Wait like half a second more, and then it's good timing. Um, and I think part of the reason that you don't get thrown to here, even though it's open, um, is because this thrower is, well, I guess they engaged the reset, so maybe you wouldn't have gotten open anyway, or maybe they wouldn't have looked at you anyway. But I think part of it too is maybe that they still see these players clearing out. But better timing there than some of the other cuts I've seen from this game. And this throw does not work. Alright, so who are you guarding here? This
B reset.
I don't even know if you call this the B reset. They're more like the D reset. Here's the
Yeah.
A.
Okay.
Here's the B. Or maybe this is the B. One of these is the B and one of them is the C, and here's the D. So
Regardless, it's someone who is not gonna get open very soon.
exactly, they're not getting open at all, and you know your positioning again for just guarding that individual is good. They're definitely not getting open here on you. But what you could be doing is double teaming this A reset because they start moving, and you can tell this thrower wants to throw this around. And so if if the defender, the other defender takes away that up line space, then you can prevent that around from going off or get a block on it too. What ends up happening is the thrower doesn't really pivot, and really they don't give a shot. They don't try to throw the around, but I would try to defend this cut up until about like right here. And then, you know, if that player wants to catch a disc directly behind the thrower, that's great. So at some point, you just go back to defending your guy. But
Yeah. Okay.
when the disc is on the trap side here, like I talked about when the disc is on the flat side, poaching in the upfield space, right, and taking away downfield cuts. When the disc is on the trap side, you can poach in that IO downfield space, but this is also an option, especially when your player is set up way behind the disc like they are now. So the option is to double team this A reset.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, let's continue here. And let's look at your cut here. Yeah.
Same thing.
You know what I'm gonna say?
Jeez.
Yeah. Yeah. Just taking the lane, and look, the defender actually does stand there and take that away. So same thing there. Something happens, call is made. You do end up catching goal here. I would say I still have some feedback about this cut in particular. Not just the timing in this scenario. Again, I think it's too early because you're making your move as these two players are in front of you. But because those players are still in front of you, it means that you're making a cut that is pretty horizontal.
Right.
Which means you're using up your horizontal space early, and then giving a chance. You know, if it's thrown, one might think that your defender has an opportunity to take a different angle and catch up to the disc if they're taking a more direct angle. Like we saw earlier on that swing pass that went off, right, on the super horizontal cut from the front of the stack, and the defender got that block. But in this scenario, the defender does not recover their position and you catch a goal. Let's take a look at this. I think that's another good defensive clip from you. And something I mentioned at the start was you don't over pursue to the break side. And as your player enters that break side space, you know it's not going to be thrown, and then you don't bother guarding them, which is good um, because you're squeezing the space the offense has to work with, uh, giving them fewer options. And I don't know how much you contributed to that block, but what you were doing there was good. And let's see what happens here. I think you went a bit early here. Again, like if the defender
Yeah.
just stayed in the lane, they could have gotten a D. But it's a great move. And this offensive player also kind of eats up their horizontal space and is cutting right at the sideline. But it's a really good throw from you, just very accurate.
Nice.
Yeah,
That's the game.
that's the game. So yeah, what did you think the themes were?
Okay, so definitely like the levels of help for my team and how much I'm poaching and when, and especially if I'm on someone on the break side, I can poach more and help my teammates.
Yeah, totally.
And then there was just the patience on offense and waiting a little more until I make my cut.
Mhm. So let's talk a little more about your goals with frisbee. What year are you in high school?
This is my senior year, so
Okay, great. And you're from Wisconsin.
yeah.
So what are your goals in the near term?
Well, I'm going to Minnesota, and or actually, this summer I'm gonna play on a MUFA team, like for summer league, and I'm doing U20 YCC boys, for like the Colorado Youth Championships,
Awesome.
and that's my second year doing U20, and my third year doing YCC. So
That's sweet.
I think,
Um, yeah, go ahead.
yeah, so that's gonna help me and should be fun, and then I'll hopefully play some ultimate in Minnesota for their probably their B or C team.
Yeah. Wait, B or C team? Why not the A team?
Because they're really good.
I mean, they're good, yeah, but I mean, I think you can set your sights a little higher. You know, if you're a
That's
player
true.
with experience coming out of high school, like you've got some good ultimate experience. You've clearly got some good athleticism. You've got some solid throwing ability. I totally think, uh, a good college A team is in your wheelhouse. Um, so, yeah, I think that should definitely be on your radar, especially when you're playing YCC, right? Like,
Yeah.
I played a ton of years for the University of Washington. Generally, when someone
Oh,
played
nice.
YCC in high school, they were going to be on the A team when they got to college.
Yeah. All right. Well, I
So,
will.
yeah. um, how has how has your summer play gone, like on YCC or other summer teams, the past couple of years, and what are you hoping to like add to your game this year?
Uh, the first year I did YCC, I was like one of the worst players for U17,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't get a ton of playing time. Then my first year on U20, I I think I was like a good player, and I was a cutter mainly. And then for this year, I think I'm one of the better players, and I kind of want to be a hybrid and maybe do some more handling.
Okay, cool. Um, how would you say, like, do you get practice operating in the handler space ever for your high school team?
Not not really. No.
So do you feel like you're going to be able to handle this summer? Like if
Uh,
you brought it up to your coach, what do you think they would say?
I think there's definitely potential.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Especially with like my summer team. I'm gonna be handling for them, so
Okay,
I
that's
should get
great.
more experience in like in parallel to playing YCC.
Yeah, that's great. That's smart. Um, what do you feel like your weak points are as a handler that you want to develop?
I think definitely deep throws, hucks,
Mm-hmm.
uh, pulls, but I'm not really too concerned about that because that's kind of a different thing in my opinion.
Yeah,
Uh, just yeah, I don't know, experience, like limited experience.
yeah, totally. Um, yeah, so it sounds like you're going to get some good reps handling for your summer league team, and you can translate that to your YCC team.
Yeah.
Do you have like, uh, are you doing any training outside of playing Ultimate right now?
I'm in like a weights class for high school, but besides that, not really.
Okay. What about throwing?
Uh, Sometimes I throw like with my friends or my
Mm-hmm.
teammates, but it's not too often. Like once a week, I would say.
Once a week. That's pretty good. Um, when you're throwing, what does your typical throwing routine look like?
Pretty
Do you
pretty
have a
chill,
routine, or is it just
but
like you
still.
chat and toss around?
Uh, it's not a full routine, but it's still focused, I would say.
Okay, cool.
But it's
Um,
usually just like under 25 yards, or I don't know how big are yards.
a yard
I don't know.
is
It's
3 feet.
not deep like a lot of the time,
Okay. Yeah.
or long throws.
Yeah. Is there a reason that you don't work on your hucks?
I
Like
mean,
any
okay,
limitations of
sometimes
field
I do,
space or?
sometimes,
Okay.
but the park next to my house is small.
Okay. So does that mean like you can't work on your hucks at that park because there's not enough space?
Yeah,
Okay. Is there another area accessible to you where you could work on your hucks?
yeah, there is. Yeah, sometimes I go to another park and practice all sorts of throws
Mm-hmm.
with my friend.
Okay, cool. Um, yeah, I would say as a handler, just based on that game, I think working on your deep throws would be a great asset for you. Um, like we noticed some opportunities where you had break hucks that you could have thrown, um, but didn't. And if you're able to add that to your game, then that'll really benefit you as a handler and a cutter. I think often people think of handlers as being the main throwers on the team, but with a lot of elite teams, what you'll see is they'll take a really good hooker and put them downfield so that they can catch an under and then throw it from that position. Because
Oh yeah,
whenever a cutter, so if a handler throws a huck, right, there are typically a lot of defenders downfield. Five if the offense is set up in invert usually, or four if the offense is in hoe. But oh, and also the cutters are starting from a deeper position, right? But if you throw an under first to someone cutting from vert or hoe or whatever, it doesn't matter. If you throw an under first and they gain like 10 yards, then the deep cuts are coming from a much shallower position, and then the thrower can focus a lot more on the accuracy of the throw instead of just like blasting it really far, right?
yeah, okay,
And in that position, there are fewer defenders downfield because One of them is going to be on the mark now.
Right.
So it's you're great at catching unders. So for you to have a big impact on your teams this summer, on YCC as a hybrid, um, or like kind of the same thing applies as a handler when you're catching an up line pass. You've got forward momentum. Your mark is going to be trailing you, and you're throwing from a shallower position in relation to that deep cutter. Um, if you're able to practice your hucks a lot, practice them on your own first, and then when you feel comfortable throwing them in game, that is going to be super advantageous for you as a player, and it's going to make you stand out at a school like Minnesota if you're really consistently able to catch unders and then throw continuations.
Yeah.
Like even at sockeye tryouts right now, um, there aren't a ton of players who are really good at catching unders and then throwing hucks from that position. So if you're able to develop that, like start developing that skill right now and get really confident at that, at throwing continues, then that's going to be great for you.
Yeah. Nice.
Um, so when you're working on your hucks, good way to do that is give yourself like a little self toss before you throw, instead
Like
of
like sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
instead of throwing from a standstill, like kind of jog like an up line cut, and then just toss a disc in the air and catch it, and then throw your huck. Or
Okay.
you
Yeah.
could you can like face away from the person you're throwing to, like you just caught an under, and then toss it up, catch that under, and then turn around and then throw that huck. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Like making
Nice.
it just like simulating what you're gonna do in game just a little bit more.
Yeah. Sweet.
Um, is hucking your main goal as like what you want to work on as a thrower right now, or are there other things too?
There's other. I mean, I just want to be more confident as just all around like confident and like good awareness and throws like that I know I can make, and I'm like, okay, I feel comfortable in this situation, and I can kind of throw whatever
Yeah,
like
totally.
I need,
Yeah, I think
whether it be
you're on a
like a,
great path for that. Like you've already got a really solid step around flick, um, and I think throwers that are lacking confidence often don't have like a go-to move that they know they can throw. But I saw you throw that around reset several times in that game, and so I think that's great that you have that in your bag, and um, if you're handling, maybe you can throw that in game more yards downfield too instead of just throwing it as a reset.
yeah, right,
Um, so I saw that you're comfortable doing that. I think maybe a way that you could build more confidence as a thrower. You know, I'm a big fan of both. Uh, just developing consistency, maybe like testing yourself to see if you can go 50, 100 throws with your friend without throwing a turnover. And if you add that extra pressure to yourself, um, then in game, when that pressure is there, you're going to be a little more used to it. Like, you can say to your friend, like, okay, if we throw this, if we throw turnover, we're going to do like 20 push ups or something. Or we're going
yeah,
to
okay,
run
okay,
like a 70. And it's not about punishing yourself. It's about the mental task of practicing dealing with pressure.
yeah,
And as you get better at that, I think that's going to translate to throwing in game under pressure. So I'm a big fan of both being like getting super consistent with easy throws. I'm also a big fan of challenging yourself as a thrower, and when you're just partner throwing, working on more difficult things so that in a game you're expanding your comfort zone with what you're able to throw. Um, So when I was in high school, I got way better as a thrower doing this routine called kung fu throwing. I don't know if you ever heard of
Oh
it.
yeah, I've tried that. Yeah,
Yeah,
like the 20 of each.
yeah, exactly. I'm a big
I
fan of that because you've got this warm up that takes a long that you're doing a ton of throws at like 10 yards, 20 yards, 30 yards, and in that phase, you're just working on your consistency on forehands, backhands. I think hammers are included in that too. And then in the next phase, you're really challenging yourself. It's like throwing as low as you can, throwing as high as you can, throwing as far away from your body as you can. And I think that um, challenging yourself as a thrower and throwing from uncomfortable positions, like if you're releasing a disc like an inch off the ground, that is also going to make you a more confident thrower in game. Because if you can like expand your comfort zone with what you're comfortable with in practice, then that is also going to carry over in game um, with what you feel comfortable with. Um, and for me, I think confidence is so huge in throwing, especially with youth players. And so I've been encouraging the high schoolers that I work with this spring to develop kind of like all sorts of throws, like especially offhand backhands, um, like, you know, scoopers. I think people who are more comfortable throwing, not just forehands and backhands, but also more unconventional things, um, are going to feel like they have more options in a game. Even if
Yeah,
they're not throwing a bunch of scoopers in a game, just like knowing that you have the option, um, I think might make someone feel feel like less stressed out when they have the disc.
right. Definitely.
Do you feel like that's an issue for you? Like, do you feel stressed when you have the disc in your hands?
Um, not most of the time, no.
Okay, that's good.
But
Um,
I would like to have just more options like that
yeah,
I'm comfortable with.
yeah, cool. Other things you can work on. Um, do you remember compass throwing? That's part of the kung fu throwing routine.
Uh, yeah, kind of. Where you like
Yeah,
change
it's
your
like
angle a little bit.
exactly. You're imagining that your pivot foot, so for right is going to be their left foot, is the center of a compass, and then you're going around the compass and throwing 8 throws. So one where you step out forwards, like in the north direction, and then like diagonally to the right would be northeast, and then east. Um, and I think that's a great exercise for practicing throwing in off balance positions.
So like 180, you go from north to south, like in front of you to behind you.
You do a whole 360.
Oh, okay.
So at some point, you're even stepping diagonally to the left forwards with your right foot.
Interesting.
It's a very awkward position. But I think throwing in those positions, um, it's also cool because it kind of isolates your throwing motion. And it's important to I think it's important to be able to throw without doing like a full body throwing motion. Like you look at
Yeah,
some people and they can only throw from one specific spot. If they step out on their forehand side or step out on their backhand side, and they have to go through that whole process with their lower body and able to sync up their upper body and throw. But
right.
if you're throwing when your lower body is doing something weird and you're still able to deliver an accurate pass, um, then you're going to be more comfortable throwing from different positions in game. Um, and so I think that's something worth practicing. Um, Something I have been doing a lot recently is this concept of weight shifting, which is basically practicing like shifting weight back and forth before you throw. So I have a video on this that I can send you, but it's like starting with the disc kind of in a neutral position with your weight on both feet, and then shifting all the way into one side of your body, and then stepping out and throwing on the other side.
Hmm.
Um, which I believe can make people a lot shiftier as throwers, because a lot of the fakes that you see in game as throwers, like you are never gonna see an elite player uh, fake as far out as they can on one side and then pivot as far as they can on the other side and then throw it, because that it's impractical. It takes a long time, and um, gives your mark time to recover, and the cutter downfield, like the window might have been closed by the time that it takes. And so what you're going to see more often is a lot more subtle moves. I don't know if you saw, I posted a clip on my Instagram with this guy Simon Montague, who is like really good at this. Um, you're going to see a lot more subtle moves that are kind of just like a step in one direction, a small or a medium step, and then like a quick move in the other direction.
Hmm. Nice.
Um, yeah. And so practicing shifting your weight back and forth on your feet, and then I think it's worth practicing both stepping, like going from a small weight shift, or like thinking about shifting all your weight on your left side and then throwing it quick on the right side. And then I also think it's worth doing the same thing but taking a farther pivot on your right side. Practicing going from like a short pivot on one side to a short or a medium or a longer pivot on the other side. Having those options in your toolkit is going to make you a more confident thrower.
Yeah.
Um, cool. What do you think about your defense? Like, do you have any defensive goals for this summer?
Um. Yeah, I do. Less so. I'm less focused on defense, but uh, just more field awareness and like I really want to be able to lock someone down on like a strike cut, no
Strike, like
matter
an
what.
up line cut?
Yeah, like an O2.
Okay, cool. Why do you say your defensive goals are less important right now?
Uh, because they're not as fun.
um, that's funny. Why do you think they're less fun?
I don't know. You don't have to disc, and it's like more effort. I feel.
It is definitely more effort. Yeah. Some would argue that makes it more fun.
Well, yeah, I think it's more effort spread out over like I feel like offense. You're waiting, and then you put in a ton of effort, and it's like fun for
Yeah,
that time.
true.
But defense is like you always got to be active. You always got to be watching.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, maybe I'll learn to like it.
Well, in college, um, when you are a rookie on any college or club team, you're almost always going to be
D
slotted
line.
into a D line position.
Yeah.
So, if you want to make the A team at Minnesota, then you need to learn to love playing defense.
All right. Well,
um,
it's like I have a goal for this summer.
yeah, that's good. I this summer, do you feel more comfortable guarding, or okay, what is the type of player that you like guarding right now?
Um, I don't know. It doesn't matter, honestly.
Doesn't matter. You can guard anyone.
I will guard anyone. I don't know if I mean I feel like no matter what, there's an open option, like for them.
There's an open option for the other team.
Yeah.
What do you
Or
mean?
like if I'm guarding someone, they're gonna have an an option on me. Like I won't
Okay.
be able to take away everything.
Okay. Okay.
That's how I
Okay.
feel.
This could be part of your goal, like learning to take away, learning to kind of realize on the fly what you need to take away and what you don't need to take away. And I feel like you're actually pretty good at this already because we saw in the film you don't chase after people when they run to the break side. And even though I said you could be playing like more loosely when you are guarding one of those offstage players on the far side of the field, I didn't see you playing like super tight on those players.
Yeah.
So I feel like you already have a pretty good understanding of where the dangerous spots are on the field. Um, and, like I said earlier, just working on poaching when it's appropriate. And,
Mhm.
but regarding your one on one defense, like learning how to play lockdown, I would focus this summer on finding a strength for yourself. Because if you go to tryouts at Minnesota and you, like you're on the line and they're like, okay, who do you want to guard? There is a positive aspect to saying like, oh, I can guard anyone. Like that's showing your versatility. But at the same time, you really want to find your strength this summer, I would say, so that you're
Right.
fitting into a clear role on the team. Because at tryouts, if they're making the team and you're a player where it's like they don't really know what you do best, then it's going to be more difficult for them to envision a role for you on the team than if they're like, okay, Levi is sick at cutter defense. So he's going to guard cutters 90% of the time.
Right. Okay.
So this summer, I would try to make it one of your focuses to find your niche when you're playing defense. Like if there are any players on your teams in particular that you feel challenge you when you're guarding them one on one, and you want to get a lot better at guarding those players, like guard one of them all summer, and just try to get like if it's a cutter, get really good at guarding that cutter. Or if it's a handler, get really good at guarding that handler, and mix it up a little bit. But really, I think this summer for you should be building out a defensive role for yourself, so that way you have an identity as a defender when you're going into tryouts at Minnesota.
Yeah. Okay. Do you have a preference?
Yes, I vastly prefer to guard handlers and cutters.
Yeah. Okay. I might have a slight preference towards that too. I think.
I think people more often like to guard the position that they play. Um, I am very experienced as a handler on offense, so I feel like I have a better understanding of the moves that handlers use to get open and the positioning that I need to use to counter their actions. Um, and my cutter defense was a huge weak point for me for a long time, and I did not make sockeye until I was like, okay, I need to address that. And then my rookie year on sockeye, I was like, okay, I'm very good at guarding handlers, so I'm going to take a lot of the best handlers on the other teams, but I am good enough at guarding cutters that if I find myself in one of those situations where I'm guarding a cutter downfield, I'm not just going to get destroyed.
Yeah.
Usually. Happens sometimes still. Um, so yeah, if you feel like you have a preference for guarding handlers right now, I would really like hone that in this summer and
Okay. Yeah.
practice your. You were guarding the B reset almost every time in that film. I would practice guarding the A, so you get more reps, um, taking away the primary option.
Yeah.
And when you do find yourself on the B, work on the poaching and like poaching and then recovering when that player starts cutting. But it's going to be really important for you that when you come down at tryouts and you're matching up against a good handler, that you're able to play like solid fundamental defense and not give up lines or like spaces where uh, it's going to be important for you that you're pushing the handlers backwards and forcing them to lose yards if they want to catch a disc.
Yeah. All right.
Um, cool. Is there anything else you want to talk about at the moment?
Um, I don't know. I don't like when did you start playing? Was it high school?
It was elementary school.
Elementary.
That's how we
What?
do it in Seattle. We start in like fifth grade.
Oh yeah, of course.
Not everyone, but a lot of people do start playing super early, which has uh, benefits and drawbacks.
Yeah. Hmm.
How long have you been playing?
Since sophomore year of high school.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty common for places with youth leagues to start playing in high school. I feel like you've made really good progress in only, what, 2 years of playing? Or like two and a half?
Yeah, third. Yeah, this is my third.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, I think you're on a good path right now for sure.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if I have anything else.
All right, cool. Well, feel free to send me an email if you think of any more questions. Always down to
Yeah.
talk about frisbee.
Awesome.
And yeah, have a
Thank
great
you.
day.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. I'll see ya.
All right. See you, Manny.